I just went to WrestleMania. My action figure is coming out. Okay, I can get fired. No, I tell people off when they need to be told off. I'm not just this like loose cannon. And that's the infamous night I got in a fight with Batista. He said to me that I don't put asses in seats. Yes, I do put asses in seats. High value asses in seats.
During the Paul Heyman era, you said, "See, Paul, I grow on you like a fungus."
And so I had him like this, and I whispered in his ear, "You like that, don't you? Now you're gonna stop f***ing with me."
Shelly's got bigger balls than anybody here.
And I was always told, walk on eggshells, can't sneeze around Vince. I know Old Man Rivers, and I'm real good with them. They love me. I used to love them. He's Old Man River. I know exactly a Vince type. With the infamous Joey Styles lap dance. Oh my God, I came off so sexual. I had no idea. It seemed like we were going to be on SmackDown. What the assessment was, they saw Aaron being a tag team. They saw Beth being a contender for the women's champion. And they weren't sure with me. I don't talk about this often. I went to Danny and I was about to quit. What we were going through, because we were all these women who came from a certain era and we all had our own different stories. If I never got fired from WWE, I would have never been at the building stages of the Knockouts division. And again, that's what I signed up for. There's good, there's bad, there's ugly, but dude, I totally got what I wanted out of business.
Do not attempt to walk straight or adjust your gait. This is Limpin' Ain't Easy. I'm your handy-captivating host. My name is Timmy Baltimore. Don't forget to hop on that short for us. Hit like, subscribe, comment on our content, and engage as much as you like. My guest today, somebody who my respect for has grown and grown as the years have gone on, just from hearing how she has interpreted and gone through her own experiences. I have the great Shelly Martinez on the show. Shells Bells, welcome.
Hola, hola. I am so excited to be on your show. I've been watching your stuff online and I think you're doing a great job. So keep doing it, brother.
I'm my brother. I'm gonna till the wheels fall off, brother, somewhere between the money and the miles. Shell, you and I met in OVW. I had come about a year after you started, but you were in the thick of it once I got there with Idol Stevens, and we also hung out in some of the same crowds too. But obviously, wrestling's a part of your story and a big part. But where did you, if you could, tell me a little bit about growing up, where you grew up, what it was like, as much as you're willing to go into it.
Totally. So I grew up in Ontario, California / Chino, California. And I say slash because my grandma lived in Chino. And so I was at my grandma's house. She was pretty much what I considered my mom because my mom was pretty much a single parent, having to work full time. It was the 80s, man. That's what's up. So
Latchkey.
she was, so thank goodness I had my grandma, and so I claim both Chino and Ontario. So, it was just I would say about 40 miles east of Los Angeles, and so here in Southern California. And long story short, as I can make it, when I was a little girl, I grew up in a very toxic environment. And one of the things that helped me escape was glow wrestling. And those ladies just like, oh, I thought they were so freaking cool. And of course, I really related WWF to Cindy Lauper because I really love Cindy Lauper and she did a really good job. Like when I look back now as an adult and an adult that has been in the wrestling business, I'm like, dude, she did a really, really good job. Like, I don't know. Maybe people do give her enough credit. I certainly always have, but it's different now when I watch. I'm like, she killed it, dude.
She could have done it for a living.
She
She was
could.
so instrumental to the industry.
Oh my gosh. So, that's why on a side note, when people get all butthurt about when WWE specifically uses celebrities, it's nothing new. It's not it just looks different. It's in a different package because we're in a different era. Anyway, so get over it, people. So that combination really sparked that. And then, of course, growing up, I was in and out of wrestling because usually the theme of my life, I was always chasing boys. So I got distracted here and there, but when I got hit with the bug again was the attitude era when I was in like high school, late junior high, high school age. And being here in SoCal, it wasn't like how, like, on the East Coast or the Midwest or even the other countries, there was a wrestling presence, kind of like always, like, the people I've gone to different schools with that were my generation or before, they always seem to have known that, like, wrestling existed in their town, whereas over here, the companies were so scarce you could be a hardcore fan and you don't know that wrestling's here, you know? So I didn't know how to be a wrestler. I was like, dude, how do I become a wrestler? That's my calling. I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And what's interesting, again, it just all the dots have been connecting. Bubba Dudley, months ago, had post a video clip online of it was him and Devon versus the Hardys versus Christian and Edge, and they were in Anaheim, California. It was a pay per view, and I remember at the pond, and I was with my friends, and I was always like the Elaine of the group. Big surprise, you knew me like that. So I was the only girl, and I knew I was supposed to be this wrestler. Didn't know how to do it, and then I remember when Jeff climbed up to the ladder and everyone was just like at the edge of their seat. And then he hit freaking Bubba. And then he was there on that table and they're just there and everyone's erupting. It was such a crazy thing because I was always a fangirl and I'd be right there, first one to cheer. But I just sat there. And I remember specifically looking at Bubba and how he was selling and that's when I was like, "I have to be a wrestler. I want to make people in the crowd feel like that. I want that. That is what I'm supposed to do." And what's crazy is from, like, high school to my early 20s, I would tell everyone, I'm supposed to be in WWF," and people thought I was crazy. "Oh, Shelly's so psycho. She thinks she's gonna be this wrestler." And, I made it happen, bitches. There's my receipt right there. So that's the short version of what first enchanted me, but it was cool because I kind of along the years, like all these years, that moment kinda got lost in the shuffle. But then when Bubba posted that thing earlier in the year, that's when I was like, "Holy shit, that was the moment." Because I just remember and everyone around me was like a movie. They were like, "Oh my gosh, ah," they're going crazy. The crowd, I'm watching them on TV going crazy, and so anyways, so yeah, dude, that was like, I going back to earlier, I was like, I like revisiting questions because the story has shifted, man, right before my own eyes, and it was like, when Bubba posts that, I needed that reminder at that time, and I think it's so freaking cool because, like, when I was telling you it right now, that's why I got all passionate and messed up my microphone. It's like, I forgot, man. That's
That
one of the things that would drive me, and then you get lost in the shuffle and things get lost. I'm so glad to have reconnected with that moment, man, because it was so real. I knew I was like, I have to be there. I'm supposed to be there.
so we're talking about Bubba hits the deal and he has that 1,000-yard stare, and you almost connect with that? Because that's awesome.
It was Jeff gives him the bomb and then he's already at the table.
Okay.
And the match is amazing match. It's like so you're already at the edge of your seat, so it's kinda towards the end, and then Jeff hits Bubba and then rolls away, and they're both selling, and it's not like they were overdoing it or anything. I'm pretty sure they're, like, saying, "Are you okay? Oh, okay, cool." Like, but to me, I just remember looking at Bubba, and I was like they got this crowd because I wasn't in the business yet, so I didn't understand that connection yet, and I just knew I was already doing modeling, I was already doing acting. That wasn't what I was connecting with through those things. I was seeing with my own eyes that they got the crowd so invested. They got me, and I wanted that. I wanted to feel that. I wanted to make people feel that. I wanted to be that energy, and that's when I was like, "I'm making this happen." That is just it.
That's such a beautiful moment. I love that story, Shelly.
Me too.
Like, and I love that it was, well, I don't love that it was buried, but through just living, working on yourself, like these things bubble up to the surface and you realize, holy God, like that was really, and it's really good when it's a good experience too, right? Like
Totally.
we bury them under a lot of, when you're in the business, you go through so much, and it's sometimes difficult to grab and remember those moments of innocence, and when it really latches itself onto your soul and DNA. And I think that's really important to do as we get older. What was the next step for you? Because I know growing up, I didn't know where to train. I didn't know what this was or indies. I didn't read the internet. I wasn't that guy. I just loved wrestling. How about yourself? How did you find your way into the business?
So after I got out of high school, that's when I was like, okay, I'll go to community college for a little bit for my backup, but I'm supposed to be a wrestler. So let's do this. So that's when I fully immersed myself in modeling and acting. And my hook, I guess you would say, because I always knew you have to have a hook to stand out because girls out here are a dime a dozen. Even girls, like, people can say, "Oh, well, there are girls with you with your eyes and your dark hair." No, there's other girls like me too. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one, I promise. So, I had to have a hook, and I was like, "What better hook to try to figure out how to be a wrestler?" Because the only way I realized you could be was whenever WWF at the time had some kind of like, contest or something like that, you know? That's the only way. So that's when I would just blab. I was the weird girl, the weird model actress girl that would always talk about wrestling, and I just immersed myself. I remember I used to go to the tanning bed because I used to be a total tanning bed, like, tanaholic, and I would play the CDs while I'm baking in there of the different WWF entrance musics, and I'll never forget one time it was a Kurt Angle song, and I hear someone in the next tanning bed going, "Is someone playing Kurt Angle?" Like, I just was like, "I'm just gonna make everything about wrestling, and I'm going to figure it out. It's going to connect." And so I kept blabbing to casting directors, whatever, whatever. And then a company, Sandy Elise Casting, still in business. A shout out to Sandy Elise Casting. They put me in an independent film about wrestling. It's called Backyard Dogs. And they used some real wrestlers in it. And so when I was on set, I would kind of pick their brain. I was like, how do I be a wrestler? And they're like, well, I learned that the school that they all trained at, that's who did the ring rental, so that's why they were there. So that's when I started learning all of the carnyisms at the very beginning, and I hooked up, got the information, and I started training, and what's so cool is around the same time, I wanna say a week or 2, I don't know if before or after me, is when Melina started, and so it was such a like, talk about, like, the precursor to, like, then OVW, you know, we both started at the same school around the same time, and we both knew we were destined to be there, and that's when going back to some of the boys thought we just wanted to be like divas and on TV, and I get it, like, most of the girls that were at that school were always the boys' rats that wanted to, like, that was the rat of the month, so they were doing some training, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't know if we were rats or not, just being honest. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what happened, and, like, we just knew, and I feel like we both got hate on from people when they saw that we did have, like, it and they couldn't break us down, you know? So I think it's so cool that we both I mean, Melina's career, holy crap, but I just had my 15 minutes, but she had a great career, you know? But anyways, I just think that's a fun tidbit that, like, we literally started, like, at the same school, like, around the same time, like, probably the same month, you know what I mean?
Like fate.
It's weird.
Very strange. Very strange. So you guys, you had an instant bond, it seems like, because why wouldn't you? Iron sharpens iron. You have two women with two who are destined to become two very unique performers. But like you said, Shelly, you guys both had it. Whatever it is, we hear about it, the intangible, bottle it up. You can't teach it, but you guys had it. So of course, I'd assume. that would draw not only the ire of other females, but males as well. Do you remember when you first started dealing with that kind of situation and how you handled it?
Well, going back to that school, that was my first taste of it because I feel people wanted Melina and I not to like each other, of course, right? And we were smartened up to it. I remember going to her house after practice and we would be like, "Oh yeah," and like, and I've said this on interviews before and I'll say it again. I'll never forget. She was like, "We could just never let them see us cry." And like we would cry with each other and we were there for each other. We both were completely different people at that time. And so the things that we are struggling with outside of wrestling, we were there for each other. And so we were creating this bond and it was so cool because to me, I grew up watching too much TV. I thought everyone was like the show Friends or Three's Company. Like, I didn't realize, no, most of the world is haters. And so at that school, I realized, dude, not only do girls get jealous, but the guys, and even more so because they think just because I'm a hot chick, that's why. But I was putting the work in, and that's why Melina and I survived those training and became like the foundation of the workers that we are, like, whatever, dude. And so that was the first taste, and the thing is, like, for so long, I think because it was more fresh, I was more hurt and disappointed with, like, WWE and things went down and, like, TNA and thereafter. I forgot, dude, no. The first wrestling school I went to showed me, foreshadowed all of the things, preparing me. Wrestling school socially prepares you for a lot, So it's so crazy because I remember when I was first getting looked at, there would be different workers that would be like, just remember this because there were people who were already like established, and they'd just be like, it's just like high school here. And I just would be like, okay, whatever. But like, it really was. But the thing is like, I forget before going to high school, there was junior high, and that was that wrestling school for me, and for Melina, because she had so many haters because she was getting looked at before me. And the way I looked at it was, heck yeah, I want to be there with you, not, whatever, like, and we lifted each other up. And I think what was cool about our dynamic was I was insecure, she was insecure. When we didn't realize we had it, it was like when I saw her having a hard time and not realizing she has it and keep going, I was like, "No," like, blah, 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 and the vice versa, so you're saying, like, sharpening each other,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful for that because not everyone has that kind of a beginning, and so it took me again to being out of wrestling for many, many years to look at it like that and be like, "Dude, that's so freaking cool," but, like, wow, I can't believe, like, all the stuff that I dealt with in WWE and all this, like, I dealt with at this itty bitty school out in San Bernardino already, so it's like, going back to earlier when we're talking about that incident at Knox Pro, it's like, what it's like, the business was just somewhere else then than it what is today,
Mm.
and I enjoy sharing the old school roots because for me, what really hooked me is when I finally was going to that school and I would hear the vets, even if they're just local vets, people like a Psycho Stew types,
Yeah.
like I would hear their road stories, even if it was just like a couple hour drive to San Diego or something. And like, I love, and the bond I was seeing, and I was like, I want that. I want these like memories, these brother, sister memories. And
Yeah.
it's more than just in the ring. I started getting fascinated with the carny of it all and how there's so much that goes into it to get to that 6 to 10 minutes, brother, in that ring and that crowd in front in the Knights of Columbus Hall. Like,
That.
that's what enchanted me, and I think that's what people always have misdiagnosed about me because of my look. They always assumed that I just was gonna be a politic, I was gonna do whatever, or I just wanted to be in the business to be on TV, and it's like, "No, dude, wrestling ran deep." Like, I got addicted to hearing these stories But now fast forward, I see how not everybody has that, and I'm so grateful that my foundation in the business was with Melina and what we had.
I love that. It's really it is fortunate to have somebody to lean on when you're struggling and when she was struggling. You guys were there to keep each other level. And I've heard you say also it kind of Melina provided almost a template for you
Yeah.
to know how once the interest came to you, how to maneuver these waters somewhat. Do you remember the first time that WWE came calling or you kind of got their attention? Do you remember that situation scenario?
I got a call from Johnny Ace, and Johnny Ace was, like, asking me about my background because at that point, I had been in the business for 5 years, and like I said, the last 2, I was doing just the lucha, so 3 years and then 2 years lucha. And that opened up the door of whenever they came into town, of course, I would be at the shows and they give me a look-see, and they would tell me what they wanted me to work on, and I would do it, and like this I did the whole old school way, being the extra, and, I think the big one was I was going through a lot, um, when I left the first wrestling school, it wasn't under good terms, it was very shady, I don't wanna really get into it, but
Yeah.
it sucked. So that's when I went to the lucha. And even though I was very happy with it and everything like that, it was still I was mourning this disappointment I had with, this first introduction to the business. Welcome to the business, sister. So I had put on some weight, and I remember Johnny Ace goes, "You have such a pretty face. If you could just lose like 30 pounds." And I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, how dare he?" And I was thinking, "No, he's right because this extra weight isn't me. I haven't been feeling good. I have been struggling and now I'm wearing it on my person." And I remember everyone and their mom was trying to "Oh, how dare." I'm like, "No, like this is not how I like my body showing what's going on in the insides kind of thing." So I got my shit together. I was like, "That's what all you're telling me is keeping me back now is because I just need to lose 30 pounds? No problem." And guess what? I only lost about maybe 12 to 15 and they hired me. So I feel they just wanted to see if I was serious, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I was at OVW, I continued and then I finally got back to my size that's a healthy weight for me when I was in OVW.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you because I'm not sure if many have encroached this subject, but first of all, I think it's crazy to think that you're just some modeling girl because modeling girls that were, and and nothing against them, they had to go through their own situation and their own dues, pay and whatever, but usually they wouldn't be at a wrestling school, have a bad experience, and then go train lucha. So, um, when you train lucha, there's always the American wrestling style with psychology, the certain psychology. Lucha has a different vibe. And what what do you love about lucha versus the American style? Do you have a preference?
I just really felt love the theatrics of lucha. Like, I look at me. Look at me. This is nothing new. I've always been this way.
Yeah,
Okay? So, hello, lucha. Um, I used to back in the day flipping through the channels, especially because I grew up, my mom was very strict with me, so I was always on lockdown. I used to make jokes 'cause funny because it's true. When the, lockdowns happened, I was like, "Dude, I've done this before." Dude, my whole adolescence, my childhood, I was doing lockdown. I already get it. I'm fine. But that's how strict she was. So on the weekends when kids were like playing with their friends and stuff, I was at home. And so that's where I really went to the television for my and entertainment, my escape, my therapy, and that going back to glow and things like that. That's in wrestling. But there'd be a certain time of day where nothing was really on and you just flipping through the channels. And then there's the Spanish channel, the Mexican channel right there. And then there's Lucha. And then it's like, hmm. And I would watch it and I'd just be like, whoa, like this is so awesome. Especially because I liked not realizing it then, but now getting into the brain of who I was at that young age, I liked that the crowd was as much into it. Those lucha crowds are out of control.
It's its own
Mer,
thing,
mer,
right?
mer, 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 mer. Like, it is a whole other, let's see, I'm getting chills right now just thinking of a lucha crowd, and that was really cool. It was a really cool, and you know what? I never this is a like, I'm having a Bubba moment with you right now with the lucha, so thank you for asking about my lucha because that lucha era was deep because, man, I was w on Saturdays, man, Telemundo, they have that freaking lucha. Oh, it was awesome. So they were like
So cool.
superheroes. They're superhero-esque,
Yeah.
whereas I felt like WWF still had the theatrics, but, like, in a different way, and they were more characters to me, which I
A little more
loved, don't get me wrong.
melodrama, right?
They were characters, whereas Glow and Lucha, they were superheroes. They were like, and it oh my gosh, think about it. I was freaking Ariel. I was this oh my god, it's all coming together. It's all coming together
That's
here on
awesome.
Timmy Baltimore's podcast. Oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, and then I got to be a character with my whoa, thank you, Timmy.
You're welcome. I'm glad.
Wow, what
I I
the F?
I figured it had to be, uh, really a part of your a crucial part of your experience, especially once you went to TNA and you did the kind of the Dia de los Muertos
Yes,
makeup
oh,
and whatnot. So cool.
my botch.
Nobody was doing that at the time.
But here's the thing, you're so right because, dude, when AOL, I had my account, it was Lucha Gal 909. That was 909, my area code. On my gear, it's Lucha Gal, not girl, gal, because
Awesome.
and so, yes, dude, and here's the thing, with my lucha years with WPW, that's when I got to go, like, we would get in a van, it was just me, and I had my min pin, Fred Mertz, God rest his soul, and it'd just be me and Fred in a van full of a bunch of dudes, and we were going to, like, Texas and to Mexico and putting up the ring and this and that, and it's so funny because Fred, I got when I first started in the business because I started in 2000, and, he was really young, and I was gonna get him on the when I got back from this trip with my, WPW family, I was going to get him neutered, but I didn't want him to not be a virgin and then get neutered, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's funny because this guy that was there asked my trainer slash the owner of WPW if Fred wouldn't mind possibly impregnating his mini pinchers because she was in heat and he wanted to have puppies. Now, this is before I knew about, like, the breeding and all this, so don't come for me, people. I was looking after Fred's virginity. I was like, he had before the nuts go, he has to lose his virginity.
Yeah, he's
And
gotta
it's so
fit in.
funny. There's this wrestler, Biggie Big, shout out, he still wrestles. He has somewhere a tape of Fred losing his virginity in Mexico. In my That's how lucha we got over there, okay? I learned so much. And then at the same time, there was times because where the ring was set up, it was at this marketplace where we would perform every Sunday, and it was outdoors. And I remember one time it was raining, we didn't care, we still got a train brother, and the mat was wet, and we were doing it, and there's no social media there, we weren't doing it for attention, we were doing it because that we were lucha, and that's what it's training day, we gotta do it. And so it really pushed me in that sense, and so that's why, like, when people wanna have, like, their little opinion or they've lumped me in with, like, Diva Search girls, which is fine because you know what? I became like, Crystal Marshall, shout out, I still keep up with her and, like, you know,
She's awesome. She did the show.
I
She's great.
she is. So it's like, I felt comfortable with them, and so I was fine with it, but it did hurt my feelings because when I say I paid my dues, like, I really did pay my dues, but I didn't have to sit there and be like, "Well, listen, I did this, this, and that, and paid my dues." Like, "Who are you?" Like, whatever. I've always said I don't care if people say I suck. I don't care if people wanna harp on, like, that botch spot in TNA because at this point, I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious.
Right, right.
So, the point is, like, the people I've trained with and people I've had matches with, they know.
They know.
And to me, I was brought up old school. That's all that matters,
The peers.
is the people you train with and the people you're working with. Like, Why am I gonna sit over here and try to convince? And at OVW, I feel like even though I made some great friendships there and stuff like that, there was still this stigma. I was this girl from the West Coast. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to be coddled, or, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. Watch, we'll see how long she'll last." There was definitely that vibe, but I looked at it as, "They'll just see. They'll see."
Yeah.
And, I was in their training, and I remember Al Snow used to have this drill, 555.
Five,
"It'll
five, five.
blow you up, brother. Blow you the F up." And I would always go in there. Remember Dean the Cooler
Oh
Visk?
yeah, the cooler.
Me and Dean, we would always team up, and the reason why is because we would always do, instead of 555, like 2, 3, 2. But what we did is we worked it like a match. So we
Yeah.
go in there and we were doing it like whatever. It's like what, 7 something in the morning or whatever. No one wants to get in there. We're getting it out of the way. And I remember one time Al was scolding the class and he goes, like, you don't think I effing know that Dean and Shelly don't do 555, but they're doing it like a match. That's the point. And I was like, so my whole point
Gotcha.
is like, it was things like that. Like, I didn't feel I had to go out of my way to be like, "Well, watch, let me show you." It was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna get in there." And one of the things I always felt was kind of unfair, maybe I'm being a baby, but I kinda looked at it as like, I got this, like, judgment of lesser than because I came from the West Coast and, like, whatever, but some of these people that had that vibe towards me were, like, knew about wrestling because where they live, so they've been training since, like, their teens or, like, before I ever did. That presence was always there, or later, it's, like, people who have, like, been born into it. It's like, "You were born into it, bitch. You know nothing else." So, when it was like that, it was just like, "Dude, like, I'm not saying you should respect me more, but at least show me respect because I found my way. And not only that, I put in the work. I didn't just find the way and then half-assed it and shook my freaking boobs and ass to get a job. I paid my dues. I knew that, and that was, like I said, what addicted me to the wrestling. It wasn't what, and but because people saw my appearance even back in the day, they just assumed, "Oh, Shelly, da 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 da. Oh, Shelly, da 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 da." And it's like, and how I was feeling was like, "Oh man, like, am I messing up?" And that's when I developed this second guessing that carried on with me my entire career. Like that botch spot in TNA, that's me choking, and that choking stems from I let what those people's, even though I fought through it and survived it, it still affected me, and I had no idea until a couple years ago. I carried that, and that was, like, a big burden, especially because they were putting that on me, and it was almost like the more I showed I was down for the business and for the right reasons, the more it made them like me even less, some of these people. Some of them, they're like, "Oh, okay, she's legit." Like, "Okay, cool." And then some of them were just like, "Oh god," and they went even harder, and that's something I didn't realize until later either, and it's just like, it sucks because they all, in my opinion, had this advantage where I had to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is unfair, and it stinks because I know when I first, met you, you were so confident. Like, that's what I felt, that this woman is so confident and, like, uh, I think it's important to know that while that may have been how some read you, that there was this other thing going on, and I have it too, like the inundation of eggshell walking constantly. Uh, you're no matter what you do, these people are looking for a reason. And my battle against it was like schmoozing or being likable, making people laugh. Um, and I feel like sometimes we can like I would have had no idea that was going on with you because
Well, here's the oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you
no,
off.
please, because you seem so confident to me at the time.
It wasn't that I was, like, so and here's the thing, and I didn't realize this until, like I said, not that long ago. That's why I had heat with certain people. People thought I was this confident person, but what it was is I was just being me.
Yeah.
I wasn't, like, feeling like what confident people or how maybe you read me. It was just like, I remember something really cool I heard, and it made sense to me way later, of course, is remember Sose?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I heard.
So she told me, while I was in OVW, she goes, "You know what Al said about you?" Because we were, like, doing something in the ring and, like, I came out and, like, me and Sose would like, shout out Sose, I love her, and we still
So
kinda
they
keep tabs.
yeah, former OVW, wrestler. She managed Fearless Jack Bull, among other.
Ugh,
Uh,
fearless. But, she said, "He turned to me right now and said, 'You know what Shelly's problem is? She has it, but she doesn't know it.'" And so mini so it's like, that's to me at the time, I felt like relating it to, like, my Melina beginning stages era, well, that's how I took it, but then later in life, that's when I realized that a bunch of people, especially the ones I rub the most wrong, it's because they realize that their initial judgment on me, like, they put me in a box, is not who I am, and not only that, but my strong points, I'm so unaware of them that I'm just kind of like la-di-da, this coming off as confident, but to me, I'm just like, I just know how to
yourself.
be Shelly. Like, there's
Yeah,
things about me I'm insecure about, but, like, at the end of the day, like, what you see is what you get, and people took it as like, I know some people took it like, I was stepping bounds in certain situations, especially in wrestling and stuff like that, and it's like, dude, I wasn't even aware of it. Like, to be honest with you, when I hook up with people from the old school era, I always am like, "Dude, are you ready to, like can I ask you questions?" Because I had no idea what people were, like, saying behind my back, this opinion that they had. Like, for example, when I was first Ariel and I was so excited, like, I got to be a vampire, like, I'm with the new ECW, um I really liked Candice Michelle because she was always really nice to me. I didn't know her well, but because of the cross of, being on TV and whatever, like, I was like I liked Candice Michelle. We had some nice conversations, whatever. And then years later, people started confiding in me, and they're like, they want or they were trying to get you and Candice Michelle not to like each other." And I was like, "What?" And so I started thinking back on how people would bait me, and they would be like, "So do you think your boobs are bigger or Candice Michelle's?" And then you know what I would say? I go, "You think I have a body like Candice Michelle? She's so pretty. Oh my gosh, thank." And then at the time, I didn't realize it, and I would kinda be like, "Huh," because when I would say that and be, like, putting Candice over because I liked her and I thought she was so beautiful and the whole 9, I thought she was, like, the whole package. I would watch these dudes deflate in front of me, and I was thinking, "Huh, that's weird, but whatever." And then they kept whatever, and so it's things like that even, and I know they were messing because, like, I was a one and done person. Like, when I do a match or whatever, I move forward. I know where I messed up for the most part, and if I need to figure it out, I'll watch it back, but especially my Ariel era, like, alright, fine, where's the next show, rather? So people thought I was politicking when I'd be backstage talking to, like, the producers or the writers or Mark Carrano, and what we were talking about because I was so freaking nervous, like, here I am living my dream, right? It's a little overwhelming. I would be talking to them about, like, music, Disneyland, like, the Munsters, and so people had no idea, but because I had this kind of unbeknownst to me confidence vibe going on, people assumed I was over there, and I'm just like, "Yeah, like that one episode of I Love Lucy." And then when I started watching my stuff back a couple years ago, because fans would send me stuff, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that. Let's see," or, "I don't remember that. Let me watch it." And then get this to me. It wasn't until a couple years ago I thought, "Oh my god, I came off so sexual. I had no idea. I had no idea. I just knew what the assignment was, And so that's why I'm like, "What were they saying in the back when I was over there being Ariel? Oh my god, what were the boys saying? And is this contributing to certain situations or people's, like, opinion to me?" Like, okay, I've infamously talked about how I kinda told off Shawn Michaels, right? And he didn't like me. So now looking back, I'm thinking, does part of the reason why he doesn't like me is because of how I'm performing out there? Is that adding to it because he's, like, judging me? I'm not saying that's the case, but, like, I never thought about that being a possibility until I looked at my content of being Ariel, and I was like, "Oh, no wonder why my family's weird about my WWE stuff." I get it. Like, I hate that they've seen me like that, like, so sexual. I
That's
didn't know.
that's crazy though, because you were a hell of a performer, and that was the vampire seductress. Like
That was playing a
I
part. Because here's the thing, did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar back in the day?
I know of it. I've never
Okay,
seen.
well, there's a character in there, she's like the bad vampire, and her name's Drusilla, and so Ariel was Drusilla, baby Firefly, which was Rob Zombie's wife in the House of a Thousand
Oh
Corpses,
yeah.
and a little bit of Lily Munster, and me, pumped up, that's what they always say with our characters, right? So those are who, and if you go watch all those people, you could see Ariel right there with it. So I pulled from these characters that made those characters so believable and put my spin on it. So to me, I literally was just like, okay, like with the infamous Joey Styles lap dance. When Tony Gurria was like, "Hey, go," we're like, whatever, just we're messing with him. I was like, okay. And like I just went and did it. And that's what started it. I was like, what is the big deal with this Joey Styles thing? And that's what started me to watch my Ariel content. That's what it was. I was like, I always get asked about it. Like, why? And when I watched it, I was like, oh. And so, the fact that they were playing a rib on him and used me for it, which is fine, I'm all for a good rib. What were they saying in the back? I wanna
Hmm,
know. What was Vince saying? What were the boys saying? What were the girls saying? I
yeah,
want to know.
interesting. That you want that kind of confirmation, and I think you bring up a good point because when I say you were confident, I'm not sitting there going, "This girl's confident." I'm going, "Wow, she's confident," and then I'd see you perform. And when I first met you, it was Sugar and Spice, Shelly, Beth Phoenix, Aaron Stevens in the middle, and that was a sexy gimmick. I go, "Oh my god!" Like, and I think like when somebody is like outright sexy like that, some people have trouble sometimes doing the math to the real person, right? Because it's like that seared into your brain. And it's crazy to me though that even in wrestling that happens because we're all performers. We're all I'm not an announcer. I'm pretending to be an announcer. You know what I mean? So it just that but in your search for like why I think there's always been a history of, especially a male dominated business, because if a woman is her sex appeal is there and she's comfortable with it, whether you were or you're not, it seemed that way. They come to their own conclusions, and I'm sorry you went through that. That sucks.
You know, it's fine in the sense because, like, it's almost like me the ignorance is bliss kinda thing. It almost kinda saved me because I would be in, like, these re find myself in these really weird situations, and I'd be thinking to myself, "How did I get here?" And I would think to myself, I thought, like, when, like, a guy would come on to me or whatever strong, especially during Ariel era, I thought to myself, I thought we were friends. Like, why are you trying to hook up
Yeah.
with me? Like, what is going on here? And it was like, I would have friends that like did that. And I was like, wait a minute. And I think it's because they were watching the aerial stuff. And so then, even with people who knew me, it was like, and here's the thing, I didn't realize I was sexy. I didn't feel sexy. I was always so, because, especially because that boyfriend that I escaped from, he really tore down my confidence. And when I would wear my cute outfits or whatever, whatever, that was me working with what I got to make myself feel better, right? I'm not saying I thought I was ever ugly. I've always got attention from boys ever since I was a little girl. I'm not saying that. But I never felt really accepted ever, and I never really felt like I was the girl that got picked or got, like, the guy. So, therefore, it kinda put this I'm not good enough burden on me. So, like, when I think of being an OVW, I think about, like, knowing as a performer and being a performer my whole life, I knew the assignment. That's why I was able to be the chameleon I could, because I am a performer. Like I said, before wrestling, I was already acting, and that was just always a part of me. So, I was able to turn it on for the performance because that's when you get to be whatever you feel you can't be in real life. So, I feel a lot of people confuse that, and then they confused. 'Cause, like, how you said you didn't look at me like, "Oh, she's so confident." You looked at me but some people did, and
Yeah.
that's who they and it rubbed them even more wrong, like I said, when they realized I was kind of like, "Do, do, 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 do," about it, and especially, like, the outfits I'd wear and stuff, to me, I thought I looked cute. I didn't think I was, like, this sexy hot girl. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this looks so cute." And you have to understand, I grew up in the era, especially being a model actress here in town, early 2000s, you got Carmen Electra, you got Pamela Anderson. I always thought their outfits were so cute. They looked like how they put themselves together. So I'm just that kind of a girl, and I always was. So the outer looked a certain way because I liked that aesthetic and it made me feel better and comfortable because it was like me. But man, I was so insecure, man, like, I especially OVW, and especially because I let people make me that feeling lesser than energy, even though I was like, "Oh, I don't have anything to prove to them," it still wears on me, man, and then you
Yeah.
get tired of it, it's just like, "Oh my gosh, like, here we go again," like and that's why, like, I will always say Al Snow always gave me credit where credit was due, and not only that, he is somebody that helped what I learned from my early stages of my career and what I learned from Lucha, and he is the one that bridged them together and allowed my brain to go, "Oh, now it makes sense how I can from both worlds and experiences collide them together with this like bridge that is OVW." And because I went straight, I started when I was 20 in the business, and then in between leaving high school, being done with high school and 20, I was doing the modeling and acting. Like, I didn't have that college years that people would have, so OVW became and then that was the other thing, that was my college, that was my I finally live out not in my town anymore, like, I'm out on my own, I'm living out my dream, it's, like, so many layers to it, and so I think that's why when people realized I was kind of, like, so ignorant to what I really had, the people that were hating on it the most, it was like I was a target, like, they knew how to, like, make it harder for me, but that strengthened me to not only survive when I was on the road in WWE, when I did go to TNA, when I went back to the indies, but just, like, in life in general, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
For sure. Uh, the there's also something to be said about growing up on the West Coast. It's a different vibe. It's a different vibe, and I'm sure you felt it coming to Louisville with a lot of people from the Northeast and the
Yeah.
South. I think there is. I don't want to generalize, but there's a different vibe to the West Coast, and if you're not used to it, um, there's just the Northeast. Everybody's just a little more irritable or something. I don't know how to describe
I
it.
know, man, they don't have that California sunshine, I guess, I don't know,
It's
but
probably it. Do you I remember one go home meeting, and a go home meeting at OVW was we'd have our TV Wednesday. It would conclude, and, during the Paul Heyman era, he would stand up and go questions, comments, thoughts, and there was something went down with you and him, and you said, "I'm a fungus and I'll grow on you," or some exchange. I vividly recall this happening. I'm going, "Oh, Shelly's got bigger balls than anybody here. Jesus Christ." She's like,
See, this is what I'm
so
saying, like, so, okay, you were there. Tell me, do you remember this?
so I remember it was something where you had done something that he either liked or there was you could tell there was a bone of contention that had happened. And you said, "See, Paul, I grow on you like a fungus." And nobody, this is the days when Robert Fury, we need more Fury and throw the chair against
Okay,
like so nobody really talked back to Paul like that. And it was a moment that I was like, wow, this girl,
okay.
there's something. Oh
So
my God.
so what
You know?
happened okay, so
So
what had happened
yeah,
is, um, I don't remember the timeline of it, but there was a show where Beth, Aaron, and I were having a handicap match with Mickey and Chris Cage. And so in it, there was like a flub. It was my fault. It wasn't bad. And like, so when we were at that meeting after the show, and here's the worst part. Are you ready, Timmy? I
sure.
haven't thought about it this deeply, but here we go. It was a lucha move, and I messed it up. Not totally.
That's
No,
the
I didn't
place
mess it
to
up.
do it.
I just kind of flubbed a little bit. So it didn't look pretty. So after when we were at the meeting, Heyman was like tearing apart the match, saying that because at that time Mickey was getting, I don't know if she was already on the road or she just had started or she was about to, but she was gonna about to be Mickey F and James, right?
Yeah.
So um he was like, "Oh, I'll never forget, he said, "She's the Stone Cold Steve Austin of female wrestling, and how disgraceful that she had to be in that match," and he was, like, going on, and I now looking back, because I remember when I ever tell the story, I remember really feeling like crap and feeling so defeated within myself, but now that I'm remembering this detail that it was a lucha move, that's deep. That was my moment, right?
Yeah.
Lucha Gal 909. So, the next day, what we would do is Al would review the shows with us and critique everything.
Tape
And
day.
when we watched the match, I was like, "Oh, here we go. God." Like, I had so much anxiety about it. And when I saw the flub, I was like, that's it? Because I remember Al kept assuring me, "The match was fine, the match was fine." And so, because he saw I was beating myself up about it. So, I emailed Paul, and I said, "I watched the match at tape, and I'm really confused on how, like, you thought it was just so terrible because aside from that flub, like, whatever." And so he didn't write me back. And then after that, he totally would just job me out at OVW. Not in the ring, but, like, in front of everyone. Like, one time I had a match with Beth, because at this point, we were working against each other, and he goes, "Now Shelly's very inexperienced, so we have to walk her through the whole match." And it would be, like, from point A to point B, like, and I remember I was so mad, and Beth was like, knew I didn't need this, so it's
Yeah.
all a waste of time. And so what I did, I was walking behind Paul, and I was going like this with my arms, and I had a ponytail, and I was letting it slide. So I was mocking him, and when he turned around, I would stop. And then people were watching, so that was like my payback, right? So I started messing with him. Going back to at the time, that wasn't me thinking I'm so over and I can like make fun of Paul. It was me being like, no, a person is a person, and, like, you are mad because I question you. You say questions, comments, suggestions, alternatives. That's what he would say. Because to this day, I do say that. And
Yep,
so
yep.
I got upset. And so that was my way of releasing. And then, um, I wanna say it was that day that where you're talking about. So now we're fast forward. That's when he was doing I was doing the thing. It was earlier in the day for the show. Then
You're, like, waddling behind him, kinda
yeah,
doing
and
his
so
deal.
that doing the deal, and then we turn around I just whatever. And so Beth and I had the match. It was a great match. I loved it. It was short but sweet. Pirate Shelley. And when I went to the back, I kinda had a vibe of like, "Yeah, now what, Paul? Like, did you see that bit?" That's what my
Yeah.
vibe was. And then he still was kind of like acting all snooty to me. And so I said, "Screw it. Everyone thinks like I'm this crazy girl." Because at that time I had this like one of the worst boyfriends I could ever have. And so Crazy Shelly did come out. So I got this reputation of being crazy. So I was like, okay, I'll own up to it. And so I grabbed Paul by the neck and I pushed him up against the wall. And then what egged me on is and my peripheral vision, I could see Al and he's going, yeah. So like I'm thinking, oh, now I'm being egged on. Okay. And so I had him like this and I whispered in his ear, "You like that, don't you? Now you're gonna stop with me because I just showed you the like, I can't remember exact words, I was like, "Whatever," and I, like, let him go, and I just remember he was going, and everyone was, like, looking, and then I walked away, and it was, like, that hallway and that door, and I thought to myself, "Don't turn around, be like the movies." So I opened the door and I slammed it, and then we had the going to what you're talking about. He changed his tune. He goes, "You know, Shelly, her and Beth and da 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 da," and he put over the match as he should have. And then that's when I said the thing about the fungus.
You s-
And then he said, I said, "I'm like a fung or I'll grow on you like a fungus." And then
Perfect.
he kept going on, and then he said, "Yeah, so, the fungus." Like, he kind of like I forget exactly what he said, but he kinda confirmed it. And
Yeah.
to this day, he calls me his fungus, his
That's so
California
awesome.
fungus. But going back to my point to you, seeing this right now, looking back in third person, that is absolutely out of line and crazy that I did that. But I wasn't looking at I had enough of lesser than, she's
Yeah.
lesser than, she's lesser than. And it's like, no, I know I'm supposed to do this. I already did this round with people back in SoCal trying to make me feel lesser than. Now I thought over here, because when the lesser than after me being there and proving myself was still there, that feeling from some people, that's when I started to kind of be stressed out about it in the sense of like, I've already proven to you, like, what more do you want? Like, ew. And then that's when I had some like grievances with some like the girls. And at the time I was thinking, like, what the F are you even worried about? Like, but now looking back, they saw me in the outfits and then blissfully being like myself. So they looked at it me being a sexy, confident lady.
Yeah.
And when they, like I said, they saw how I truly was insecure in my own head, they wanted me to be that girl. You see what I'm saying? These
I
people,
do.
they want me to be looking down my nose and being like, "Whatever," and telling people off, and it's like, no, I tell people off when they need to be told off. I'm not just this, like, loose cannon, and that's why people are afraid of me. That's why I got in a conversation recently, I was like, "That dude isn't afraid of me because like, I'm this hot-tempered Latina that's gonna, like, go, 'Da, da, da, da.'" No, it's because he knows that that's coming to a pushing point, and now I'm not buying your bullshit. Like with
Yeah.
Heyman, it was like, "No, I just had that match after you degraded me in front of everyone. Oh, she has to be walked through it." And I remember Al was like, oh, he was so frustrated because it was wasting everyone's time. And so, but he knew just let Paul do what he's got to do. So in a way, it was like a humiliation. I had enough. I had enough, and that's why it was like, "Screw it." And because I come from the West Coast and, like, these people were in locker rooms where that's like, you never would do that a day in your life. I learned more, locker room etiquette being in OVW because it was different over here, like you had mentioned. It's just 2 different worlds. So that me being naive to that is what allowed me to have those moments where I was creating boundaries. I don't care if you're a Paul Heyman. I don't care if you're a Batista. I don't care if you're Shawn Michaels. I don't care if you're Randy Orton. You are a person. I am a person. This has nothing to do with our job right now. You are like, this is something separate. So if you want to go there, and that's the other thing. I, because I was always around dudes, I've always was friends with dudes, that's my default of kind of being straightforward and blunt. And then I thought in the wrestling business that would get me far because it's like handling things how you need to. But because I feel I'm a woman, it's like, oh, the boys can be like that, but the girls, they can't you can't be like that. And so to me, it's, like, about respect. If I feel disrespected or you're trying to pull something on me, I'm gonna say something, and it has nothing to do with the business, brother, sister. It has to do with I am a person and you're a person, and if I'm showing you respect or whatever, and you aren't giving me back in exchange, like, no, we're gonna have a talk. And that's just how I am, and I'm, again, going back to the toxic environment I grew up in, where I had no voice. And then this toxic relationship I was stuck in, I had no voice. I developed my voice through my journey of wrestling, and the more I was in it, the more I was like, "No, I don't care if this costs me my job. I don't care if this and that, because what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong." And I don't think I would have been able to deliver those moments of sticking up for myself, because maybe, like, 3 people my whole life have ever stuck up for me. I always had to stick up for myself, and I had to learn that. And so, if I'm not gonna do it, who is? And
Yeah.
so, that's why all the trouble I've created, um, that's where it was coming from, and now I understand from the information I know and filling in the blanks, the static I've had with people, especially people in the generations before me, my vets. Some of them just never liked me because they thought I was just this smart mouth greenhorn coming in thinking that I'm just whatever because I got big boobs and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, they don't know my story. And they don't know that with or without wrestling, this is who I am because I learned through life and like surviving with my relationship with God and me that I'm going to stick up for myself because no one else will. That's what it's about.
And it makes sense. I mean, the the trauma you had gone through, and trauma makes us feel powerless, especially when we're young and voiceless. I think that I can relate totally to that, and that's so powerful. And once you get into the thing you love, especially if you love it, and you're dealing with these repetitive situations, it's like, of course you're gonna fire back. And if the word on the street is crazy Shelly, like at some point, you know what? I'm gonna show you crazy, you sons of bitch. Like, I don't blame you, Shell. Like, and I was fortunate enough to get to know you outside of wrestling because we hung out in the same circles, and I knew how kind-hearted and how lovely you were. Um, do
Well, when we
you
would hang out, that was like my safe space. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like that group we had, that's where I felt, and that's why you got to know me, because I felt safe in the sense of I could be myself. I don't have to have my walls up. Like all
yeah,
that stuff doesn't matter. Because the thing is yeah, we would talk about what was going on at work here and there, but for the most part, no, we were like doing our thing. Like, so that group, along with when I lived in Nova's house in that group, because I had 2 groups, it was like, I don't know what I would do without that. That's what helped me survive everything that I'm, like, unleashing here on your show, because that was it. Because it and also, when I got to OVW, that's when Eminem was, like, blowing up. So,
mhm.
Melina wasn't even around. So, like, what I thought was going to be my anchor, like, she wasn't, and it was cool because at least we got to text and, like, she was still there for me, but, like, that's why I feel my relationship with Beth, and it was almost like, now that I think of it, oh, wow, I never thought of it like this. It's like Melina and my friendship with her, one of the many purposes it was to get me to Louisville, and it's
Yeah,
kinda like a relay race where she passed the baton to Beth, because Beth was really instrumental to me for a long time during my time at OVW, you know, not just more so behind the scenes, nothing to do with wrestling versus, like, we still had our partnership in wrestling, so it was really connected, and I'm just grateful for them, and then our friend group we had together, and then the house I lived in, because if I didn't have that, those people to feel I can be myself, I think I would have really lost it. Because there was even a time, I don't talk about this often, I went to Danny and I was about to quit because I was just, like, done. It was after they split me, Beth, and Aaron up, and I was just like, "I don't think I'm meant for this." It was the first time I was like, "I don't think I'm meant for this after all." Like, it was
Yeah.
this whole thing. So, I went through a lot, and not a lot of people, even my close friends, know what it was because I was so drained from it, and especially with, like, a group of guys. I could only you guys could only meet me so far. You're still not a woman in the business. So, to me, that's why I was so grateful for, like, still having Melina and having Beth, and developing a friendship with Kara, Cherry,
Sherry.
and then I started a friendship with, Kat there too, Katie Lee,
Mhm.
Sosay, Jillian, like, these girl Mickey. So, it's really cool that I was able to collect these awesome women to relate to what we were going through because we were all these women who came from a certain era, and we all had our own different stories, but we were all experiencing things that, like, my guy friends, my buddies, they just couldn't relate to. So that's why I just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because why?
I it's I think back to the what you just said when you met with Danny and for the folks at home who don't know, the the gimmick with Idol Stevens, who is Aaron Stevens, who became Damian Sandow most famously. And I see him in Cleveland at Exodus Pro recently. We don't skip a beat, but he was like it was with the Maharaja of the Menage a Trois, and it was like it was almost like Shelly was the devil on his shoulder, Beth was the angel on his shoulder, Sugar Spice, and it was a really cool deal, really cool presentation made for TV, jumped off the screen. So I can imagine when that got kiboshed, that was heartbreaking. Do you remember hearing that was going to be a thing and how you heard about it?
Yeah, so, um, when I first got sent to OVW, Tommy Dreamer, he was Office at the time. He had told me that I was going to quickly be on TV and they were making a new brood and it was going to be Gangrel, Jimmy Wang Yang, me, and Kevin Seven. So I was at OVW not even a week, and it was around the time where they do the WrestleMania sweeps where they fire a bunch of different people, just it's budget. And or if they want to make an example of someone, they say
Black
that's why.
Friday.
So, but at the end of the day, black and white, it's about numbers, budget. So they fell in that category, and it was just me. And so I was like, oh, like that sucks, dude, because I've always been into vampires, and I was like, "I was gonna be in the Brood, like, are you kidding me?" And so after that, like, shortly after that, and I was at OVW for a little bit, Beth approached me and she was like, "Hey, Aaron and I have been together doing this one other gimmick. It's kind of preppy, but we're wanting to change it, and we're wanting to know if you would wanna be part of this gimmick with us." She was like, "We wanna do kind of like the Two-Face character from, Batman Forever, where it's like the good girl and, like, the bad girl, but there's both, like, still the bad girls." And I was in. I was like, "Hell yeah." So that's what started that, and that whole journey was amazing. They even put us on the road for a loop, um, which is when it's like a week being on the road with house shows and then going to the TV tapings. And Aaron had some awesome matches and we just had a good time. And it seemed like the crowd loved it. It seemed like we were really going to be on TV, maybe SmackDown with this gimmick. And then when we got back, the assessment was they saw Aaron being a tag team. They saw Beth being like a contender for the women's champion, and they weren't sure with me. And so I was like,
Damn.
awesome. And so then, at that time, that's when I was feuding with Beth, at OVW, and I did the crazy pirate thing, and Paul had written that I was obsessed with Paul Burchill because he was doing the pirate thing on SmackDown, but, when he was I don't think he was a pirate at OVW when I was supposed to be obsessed with him, but anyways, they had what they would do sometimes is they would have if WWE was in town or near OVW or drivable, they would pick a certain talent that they wanted to get a little look-see at. I was one of them, and they weren't really doing anything with me, and I just remember seeing Vince at the, ringside, and he was just by himself, and I was always told, like, "Walk on eggshells around you can't sneeze around Vince, da 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 da," and all that's true, but I think coming from that Hollywood background that I had, I know Old Man Rivers, and I'm real good with them. They love me. I used to love them. He's Old Man River. I know exactly a Vince type. So I went right up to him. He wasn't busy. And I was like, "Hey, I'm Shelly. I'm at OVW. I'm doing this thing while I'm obsessed with Paul Burchill. I'm here to tell you he's missing something, and it's me. So I'm asking you to give me an opportunity to show you how I can add to Paul." And he sat there and he was like, "All right, we'll put you on Velocity tonight, and we'll see what you guys got." And
Well
so that's when
done.
I got to be Pirate Shelly, and, it was really fun, and then I thought I was gonna go somewhere, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this would be so cool." Because one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies had come out, so I was like, "Dude, we can go to, like, the red carpets in character, like, to promote WWE," and, like, I had a whole marketing, like, thought behind this, dude, and then I got the call that they were gonna kill off Burchell's pirate character, like, and I was like, "No," but then the reason why I got the call was because they said they really liked what I did, so I was like, "Okay, like, whatever." So when I was kind of in limbo because this was in between, like, they gave me the notes and they killed off the pirate to they're gonna bring the fake ECW, make it. So that's when I had that talk with Danny because I was like, "Okay, they don't know what to do with me, and then I think I'm gonna go first I think I'm gonna be the vampire." And then that didn't happen. Then I think I wanna go up with Beth and Aaron, and then that didn't happen. And now I thought I was gonna go up with a free have this whole marketing, and now that's not gonna happen. So why be here? Because at that point, the static was too loud. I was the people, my haters, and the people that wanted me to fail, it was getting to me too much, and I didn't know what to do about it because at this point, some of the people that used to be in my safe group now no longer were. And so that was very traumatizing to me. And so I really felt that I was falling into like this like despair. And I thought I'd rather just go back to California then if this is what like if I'm not good enough, fine. Maybe everyone was always right and I'm just not. And so that's when I had that conversation with Danny. And then going back to like being so naive, I was so not a politicker and in the know that because I was busy hanging out with you guys and we just didn't talk about this stuff, okay? And so, like, on my off time, right? Like, so I remember being in a meeting and Robbie Dauber had asked, "So, with ECW having this one night stand thing and da 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 da," and he knew all this stuff, and I'm thinking, how does Dauber know what is going what? I work for the company. I don't
Who
know it.
told
And then everyone's
Lauper?
like, "Yeah, so what is it?" And so, like, everyone knows that, like, this whole new company's coming, and I'm thinking, "What?" And I just remember sitting on those stairs, like, in the like, right there, I could see myself where the chairs are, and I just remember thinking, "Am I in Bizarro Land? Like, there's a whole, like, opportunity coming here? I had no idea." So here that's how not in the know and I was what was going on. I literally put in my time, clocked in, clocked out, because why? Going back to what I said earlier, what hooked me with wrestling was living in the moments with my brothers, with my sisters, having those moments that to this day make me laugh when I think back on, having like even the crazy moments and like whatever. That's where my importance was. So I didn't even know because I'm not at OVW right now. So I'm not worried about being in the know about what Heyman's doing over here and this, that, and the other. I just come to TV and he tells me what I'm supposed to do. So like I just had no idea. So then I just remember it felt out of nowhere when Dreamer was like, "So you're gonna be a tarot card reader, then you're gonna be a vampire, and you're gonna be with Kevin Seven." And I about took a bump because I was like, "Dude, I was supposed to be with him." And that's when I was like, "See, all of this." And they say no matter what you believe in, right when you're on the break of something, that's when all of the challenges you get like come at you and like to want to make you quit. And I
Darkest before
almost
dawn.
did. I almost did, and I still got to be the vampire. And what I gotta give credit where credit is due, through that whole time, it was about a little over a year, that whole span, um, Kevin would show up to OVW all the time, and people would make fun of him. "Oh, trying to get my job back." Like, that was always his thing, and people were like, like, here he comes again, Kevin Seven trying to get his job back." Damn it if he didn't get his job back, and we were freaking you know what I'm saying? So, it's just crazy because, like, we both have these independent stories, and even though our time together was short, like, it was such a cool, rememberable addition to the business, and I feel that people that have always wanted me to fail or whatever the negative energy is, they never wanted me to see that, and I allowed that to be robbed from me, and that's when I started watching the stuff, I was like, "I am proud of what I did. I did a great job." Like, even though, "Whoa, that's real sexual," or if I'm Salinas and I'm like, "Damn, I did a" like, I just seen a thing where me and Kong, it was really short, where sh it was a squash match, but that was okay. I was never one to be like, "I'm no jobber, I'm gonna be a squash match." I was always like, "Yes, that makes sense to the show, and I wanna be a part of putting on the show." And it's just so crazy to me how to some people, they just saw me in just such a different light that, like, if they only knew, man, like,
Yeah.
it's like Bizarro land to me, but it
It's
was meant.
crazy.
It
It's
was
crazy
meant.
that the preconceived notions, that were there, but the important thing is, like, at the end of the day, you were a hell of a performer.
Thank
You
you.
got to the dance. Um, you jumped off the screen. Uh, it was such a a cool gimmick. Did you feel right at home? Were there growing pains? What do you have fond memories, bad memories of being on the road with Kevin Thorne or being on the road with ECW at all?
You know, it was interesting because if you watch my shtick with Aaron and Beth, there's a lot of Arialisms, I guess you could say. So I really feel one of the purposes, one of them, of being with them was to help me be in season and in practice to be this character that was going to be the one that most people know me from, right? And being that I was legitimately into vampires, that just takes it to a whole other level. It's like a dream come true, right? So when I became Ariel, I was able to really step right into it because for over a year, I was preparing for it without realizing it with this just Shelly or even with Psycho Shelly. You know, you see some Psycho Shellys into Ariel a little bit now that I think of it too. And so there was that. And what was really cool is again, I think this comes from my Hollywood background. If the director or the writers aren't constantly giving you little pointers to change this and that, that means you're giving them what they want. So for me, I wasn't like walking around being all myself. It was like, okay, tell me what you want. Okay. And they were more than happy with it. So no one ever gave me notes. They were never like, okay, you need to change this or need to change that. So, like I said, even though there, you could say there was some injustices or whatever, it's fine because that's just the business. I embrace that I had so much to be grateful for. Like I said, I keep saying I got to be the damn vampire. And not only that, but they gave me full free range. I feel like they were like, let's see what she does. And then, like, whatever. And then I had another time with Vince. We were both backstage. No one was around. He was walking towards me. And he said, "You know, I just want to tell you something. You're doing a really good job. We never had anyone like you before. Keep it up." And going back to like, oh, everyone says, "Oh, just Vince," and it's like, okay, the boss. That's why they don't give me any pointers, or that's why they're not like, you have to change this, that, and the other, because I was doing it. And at the time, Kevin and I butted heads a lot. I've said this before and I'll always say it. I think it's hilarious. When you see us in the ring and he pulls me and we're so sexual, there's a lot of times I'm telling him off for real. I'm like, F you, you effing asshole. I hate you. And I'm not playing, I'm meaning it. And so that's why. But I knew the assignment. I'm a professional. You're working with a professional here. I was
You,
able to pull it off, you know? We butted heads. Most of the time, we didn't like each other, but I will say this, there was a time where my license got suspended, and so I couldn't rent a car anymore, and
Mm.
him and a couple other wrestlers, we were in a car together and they nothing weird happened or anything like that, but my whole point is like at the end of the day, even though Kevin and I butted heads, he still made sure I was safe and I had a place to stay and I had a way to get to the show. I mean, I know that a lot of that has to do with he has to make sure cuz to get there cuz me to get there because he's part of the act, but he could have also just been like, "See, she can't even whatever," but he didn't. He didn't leave me stranded. So that's why I feel and it's so funny because our characters are so sexual to where people to this day swear we banged. But the thing is, he was married and I
Yeah,
liked his wife. I didn't know her well, but I liked her and I always respected her. And it was never like that, dude. Like, Kevin never came on to me. He never, like, whatever. There's, like, good moments he was like my brother, and so it's, like, funny to say it because it was so sexual, but it was like a brother-sister relationship. We're butting heads, but then in England, we're over here drinking absinthe together, and then in Mexico, we're drinking out of the bottle together and having a good time, and again, that's what I signed up for. That part. Those moments and I was having them, and that's why when people like, "Oh, Shelly's bitter." Yeah, there's times I was because I was hurt, but even in that bitterness, I was always grateful because what I was trying to get out of the business, I did get. And I
yeah.
remember the last show I did, Ozzy was there to perform for SmackDown. And he was there with he had his band, and his one band member that plays the drums, he used to be the drummer for Faith No More, so I was talking to him, whatever. And so the guitarist and the drummer stayed after they didn't have to be there anymore because they were so enchanted with, like, mine and Kevin's character and wanted to see us perform, they stayed, and that's the infamous night I got in a fight with Batista, and one of the things that he said to me when we were arguing was that I don't put asses in seats and I'm nothing in the business, and in my head, I thought, well, who was kissing everyone here was kissing Ozzy and his band's ass, and they chose to stay here to watch me perform. So, yes, I do put asses in seats. High
Thank you.
value asses in seats. So, that's why with that, I had the confidence because with him saying that specific phrase to me that night, like, imagine if they weren't there, maybe I would have been like, "Oh," but no, I had the confidence because they stayed for me. So, that was a really cool moment, and I remember when I went out there because we got into the fight right before I went out. It was like there was a match before us, and then we go out. The match before us is when we got in the fight. So, when I went out
Wow.
there as a heel, I'm not supposed to be, like, cheered. I don't know if it translates I gotta watch it again. I don't know if it translates so much on camera, but when I was there people started chanting Ariel because, like, I was, like, being Ariel at ringside, and I knew, dude, I knew I was getting fired because of that Batista thing.
It was
So I was
that
like,
bad of
"Alright."
a confrontation?
What's that?
It was that bad of a confrontation?
Oh, yeah, I knew for sure I was done. So I thought, "I'm gonna make this memorable then." So I started really amping up, and for a few seconds, I got a good chant going because I needed that chant
Yeah.
going back to the Bubba thing. At the time, I wasn't connecting the dots, but now that I've looked back and I got triggered with Bubba posting that earlier this year, that's why I needed that, like, goodbye from that audience and ate up even though as a heel, I should have turned on them to make them boo me, but I didn't for a second because I needed to know that I had gotten what I because I remember right before I stuck up to my for myself to Batista, my thought was, "I just went to WrestleMania. My action figure is coming out. Okay, I can get fired." And then that's when I decided, "Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and stick up for myself and probably get fired." So that and I didn't realize that's why it was so important to me all these years, like I said, until earlier this year and connecting those dots that I needed that because that was ultimately what I was searching for. Was that moment of connecting with the audience on that level And there's just something that happens. It's so funny because not that long ago, there was a commercial on TV, and I was in a room full of people, and it was a WWE commercial, and one of the people on there said, I forget what wrestler it was. It says, there's no other feeling like being a WWE superstar. And I looked at my people I was at, I said, "You know what? I hate to admit it, but they're right." Like, they're right. And I got a piece of that, and I got what I needed out of that, and I'm really proud of that. And,
Yeah,
like, I keep repeating myself, I know, but it just trips me the F out that my ignorance and, like, just saved me in so many ways, even though at the time it may have seemed like it went against me. It saved me on so many levels without me even knowing it. That's why, like, when people are like, "What would you tell your younger self?" And it's hard for me because it's like, I had to learn the way I did because I'm a big butterfly effect person. If any of that would have changed, it could have changed the course of my journey. And where I am today, sitting here in the Batcave chatting with you, Timmy Baltimore, I wouldn't change my life and the people that are in it and everything that goes with it for anything. And if I would have continued to be Ariel, if I would have continued to be Selena's, that would have taken me on another path. And to me, I don't even care about that path because the path I'm on now is my purpose and I feel it in my soul. I am aligned with my purpose. And wrestling was just part of that journey, but it'll always be a part of me because no matter what, whatever I face in life, it always goes back to wrestling, brother.
it always does.
It always does,
It always
dude.
does. I remember, I was at that WrestleMania. It was right before I got, hired, and I got to see you perform, and I know your sister was there, and I know
Yes.
it was, like, a really cool moment to see you have that. How many people did we come up with that didn't get that? That didn't get that, and you have that. It's in the history books. Um, and I think that's so cool. I also heard you say something pretty poignant in an interview where you were like, why everybody asked me about Batista? Nobody ever asked Batista about the vampire girl that he got in an argument with." And that made me think that sometimes we're known for things that it doesn't tell the full story of us. And granted, like, you got in you got in arguments with Randy Orton, or you told off Shawn Michaels, and you had the issues with Batista. And it's how does that make you feel a certain way, that that's a thing that's remembered, um, a lot of times at the forefront, or have you come to peace with that? Like, how do you carry that, Shelley?
That's just me.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is because of all that, I it's like it's weird. It's like I'm looked at as difficult. She's difficult to work with because of those things. Um, so there's that negative. And then there's a huge group of people that are like give me awesome compliments of saying how they respect me, blah 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 blah. But they don't want to be associated with me because they know it's going to get them hate. So then that's been a whole other thing of having to deal with this backlash of it all, right? Because Batista, look, I can't speak for him, but the way I kind of see it is after I was gone, the problem was gone. So he wasn't thinking he had other things going on, and then whatever other personal life things that I was done. Deal, got her out of here. So for me, it's quite different because not only did I lose my job, but now it's like people who are afraid to be associated with me because 'cause they're in the wrestling business and they don't wanna get heat, brother. Then there's the people that label me as difficult and this, that, and the other because I didn't put up with the bullshit. And then there's people who talk highly of me and respect me, but they'll only give me the time of day if it benefits them. And then the small group of people that who cares what I feel like their energy to me is they don't care what I've done in life, they just respect me as a person and they like me as a person, and so then there's that, and those are the people that I cherish the most, and the memories with those types of people I cherish the most, but all the other ones are so draining, and, like, to this day, it's difficult for me because then, like, if somebody brings somebody up to me that they think I'm still tight with because I'm associated with them through the business, and to me, it's like, that's a sore subject, and then I'm kinda like, "Ah, that's great. So and so says hi. Oh, awesome." What am I supposed to say? I wish they'd text me back. Oh, they don't
Yeah.
need something, that's why. Okay, cool. So it's like it's a thing that I have to keep living with, and then with Batista in particular, being that I'm under the assumption I'm not saying that I never get brought up to him, but the ratio of how I get brought up to him to me having to get brought up, it's like this. It's like this, and it sucks, and not only that, I felt that was very unfair. And another thing that I still haven't gotten an answer, so maybe someone will reach out to you after seeing this show. Why was I never allowed to go to wrestler's court? Everyone and their mom goes to wrestler's court, gets pulled out of their hotel room. We all hear the stories. Oh, they get pulled out of their hotel room and get to talking to, and an Undertaker was there, and da da da. How come I didn't go to court because of Shawn Michaels? How come I didn't go to court because of Randy Orton? How come I didn't go to court because of Batista? How come? How come? How come I didn't get to go to court? How come I didn't get to say my piece and be like, and it's fine, it wasn't meant, but in more recent years, I'm like, "Hey, man, why didn't I get to go to wrestler's court?"
Get my day in court here.
Yes.
It's telling, and it's one thing about wrestling that is hard to communicate to the general public. And I think you alluded to it a little earlier. It's like once there's heat on you or it feels like you're not doing the right thing, it's almost feels impossible to get out of it. And um that's really like to weather the storm sometimes it's just like it's enough to set you off. And I think when I hear your story and some of the things that were said to you, like that is a line in the sand. John Laurinaitis is saying, "How dare you talk to top male talent?" Like not even just top male, like it's like brother, like that's a line in the sand. A line in the sand for me was somebody saying nobody wants to see a handicapped kid on TV. Like there's lines in the sand, and anybody who I mean, as we've gotten older, I think would understand. Like that's your boss saying that. So, do you want to go into work for a place that's how they feel about you?
Well,
Is that how you did the math afterwards? Like, I know that had to be hard on your soul. No,
that's exactly what happened. So that event happened, right? And so that was the TV day, so the next day is the go home day, right? So I'm in Kentucky and having my day off, I get a call from Laurinaitis, and he said, "Creative has nothing for you." And I started laughing because I've been told, it's been ingrained in my head that if you are in the intro of ECW, Raw, or SmackDown, you're you got a spot, like, you're good. Like, the goal is to at least be in the intro, like, if you can, I know there's only so many spots, but, like, it's a big deal, and I was in that intro every week. So to tell me that creative has nothing for me, and so I started laughing, and he was like, "Why are you laughing?" And I said exactly that. I said, "I'm in the intro every week. What are you talking about? Creative has nothing for me." And that's when I was just like, "Dude, I knew it. I knew it." And he was like, just keep in touch with us. You never know. A lot of times people, they just need to go away for a little bit and da da da." And I said, "I'm good. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity, though." And he was like, "What?" And I go, "Dude, if this is how you guys do business, like, I don't want to do business like this." And here's the other thing. One of the things that made wrestling even more attractive to me and made me really want to push forward and help get there, aside from, like, the passion that was already there, I already was drawn to it, and then the Bubba thing, throwing myself in the Hollywood scene. and seeing really what was up, it broke my heart. And so I thought I'm an idiot, first of all. Hi, I'm Shelly, idiot. I thought wrestling was a great way to still be a performer, but you don't have to deal with the Hollywood BS. So once I started seeing that the wrestling business is worse than the Hollywood business in a lot of ways, and I think that has to do with because if you were an actor or a model, there's so many different routes you can go to making a living that way, whereas most people think either if you're not on TV, then whatever. I disagree with that, but most people do think that. So I thought it was going to be or so my point is like there's only so many spots. That's why like there's only it's math. That's why it annoys me when people think that if they're an indie person, that they're lesser than a contracted person because it's like, it's math. There's only so many spots on TV. And when the whole thing went down and how I got fired, it triggered how I thought wrestling was better than this. I was brokenhearted. And that's why I said to him, I don't care like to do business with you guys if this is how you do it. Cause in my mind, it's like, I thought you guys were better than Hollywood. So I'd rather just go back to Hollywood and like kinda have a little bit more control of, like, my career than to bother with you guys if this is how it is, like, I did because the way I looked at it was these grievances I had with these dudes, I didn't go tattletale to them, like, to the boss and make it a drama. I
They
cut to the
stooged.
chase. I went to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they
like the
did.
guys stooged on you.
They stooged on me. I was like, "Let's deal with this," even if the like, whatever. So, to me, it was like, "This is upside down, so I don't wanna do this." And so, that was when I like, to what you were asking me, I had that moment of, like, when I was able to piece it all together, I was like, "Dude, this is lame. This is how it is? Then why was I, like, doing this for all this time? I thought it was something different." And it really heavily affected me because again, wrestling became my safe zone in the sense of I was able to escape that dude. It gave me that. It gave me so much positive. It made me feel it was my safe place. And now it was not my safe place. And even though after my 90-day complete was over and I was right there with TNA and I had a lot of fun with that character, I was making a lot of poor decisions like behind the stage, back scene I can't even talk right now. Behind the scenes, like in real life, I was making a lot of poor decisions because I was it was I say it like WWE was like my first love and they dumped me, and so TNA was my rebound.
You were
And so what do
wounded.
you when you're rebounding, what do you do? "Oh, look at me, I hope you're jealous over here and this and that," and you're trying to see, "I'm so happy now, thank God I'm away." But really, you haven't taken the time to filter through everything yet, especially when it meant so much to you and you feel like you did nothing but give and it turned on you. So, it was like this whole interesting thing that happened, and it was weird because like, I knew that was gonna happen, I just didn't know how it was gonna affect me. So it's, like, all deep, man. It is just so deep for me,
Definitely.
wrestling, and I can't say that enough because I'm not over here trying to prove myself to anyone, but I do know my former peers and coworkers and people like that watch things that I do, and maybe it'll give them a little bit of an insight of where my mind was at or where I was at. And so maybe some of these people that like have this like little like grudge or whatever, maybe they can like let it go because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Even if they would still want to hate me, that's fine. But like there's one person I have like an infamous feud with, and that's like I never knew what I did. And I got back to me that they're like, "Oh, she always just walked around like she was a vet." And I didn't understand what that meant, but now I do because I was having that confidence. So to them, that translated to, "Oh, she thinks she's been in the business 20 years." But to me, it's like, "It ain't about the business, brother. It's about people."
It's about people.
So that's why I like sharing um the different layers of wrestling and what it's meant to me because again, people assume that I just wanted to be on TV and be famous.
Was Kevin 'Cause the Vampire Act kinda got scrapped. Was he hot afterwards? Was that something or you didn't have
We
time to even
we
think
didn't keep
about it?
in touch after that because, like I said, we had static.
Yeah,
So I was in TNA already been doing my thing, and WWE was doing some kind of pay-per-view in that town, and so TNA moved their TV days so it didn't, like so somehow it worked out, whatever. And so we were my point is we were in town on a day we wouldn't be. And I go to this Applebee's that we all used to go to, and there was effing Kevin, and I was just like the last time I saw him was at that show where I got in a fight with Batista. So I was like, "Dang, here we go." And he pulled me aside and he was like, I just want to apologize to you that like I didn't appreciate you and what we had. And it took for you not being there for me to realize that." And I thought that was really cool of him because that's not the Kevin Seven I knew to like pull people aside and calmly tell them that and be genuine about it. So I needed that. And that was really cool. It was almost going back to that analogy. It was like kind of in a way like how I said WWE was, like, my first love that, like, broke my heart and dumped me. It was almost like that in a way was, like, the "I'm sorry" I got, even though it wasn't from them, it was, like, him. Like, I needed that. So, I know that he his character just went kinda generic and, like, whatever. I never really, because 'cause we're not, like, tight like that, had a conversation. I would love to, but, you know, it's just one of those things. I wanna know the story. Kevin.
yeah, sure.
What was going on there? Let's get on Timmy's couch over here. Let's do this
On
stuff.
the couch, yeah. Um, that's you talk about TNA being a rebound. Did you feel going into that now where you are and you're looking at it and you can see the chessboard, did you feel like, you set yourself up to succeed there, or were you so hurt that it may not have worked out no matter what? How do you feel about it as you stand now, that experience?
That's another thing. I would love to chit chat with people if they had like if they were down on how I was viewed at TNA because it was interesting because I had fun and no disrespect to TNA, but because I came from like WWE to TNA was like heavily considered second tier at that point, especially in the women's division. It hadn't built up yet. So I kinda looked at it like I just came from high school, now I'm back in junior high. So I kinda didn't take a lot of it serious, and it's because I was hurt. I was kinda being erratic, you know? So, I remember I would show up sometimes and I had this really cute shirt and it said "I pot leaf LA," and I would always be smelling like cannabis, and I was just like, "Whatever, man." So it was kinda like that,
One-time Shelly.
yeah, dude, full to the fullest. And, chasing unavailable dudes, that's where I got myself into some troubles. So I don't know what people's opinion were or whatever, but as far as my job went, here's the only thing. When I first got my contract, it was not a livable income. But and I'll always say this, freaking Nova. I had Nova look over my contract. He's like, "Thanks, just sign it. Just sign it and you can renegotiate later." Well, I did that, and what ended up happening is they kept telling me because originally when I started with TNA, they had me disguised as a guy, and then there was this, like, one moment in the ring where there was this reveal, and that was me. So, they said, "After you are revealed as being a girl, we're gonna start putting you on the house shows." Because if I was on the house shows, I could live off of that money, but just doing tapings, I couldn't. Like, I was having, like, utilities turned off at my place and things like that. It was hard. And yet I'm here on TV, but, like, you know what I'm saying? It was so hard. And there came an opportunity for me to be a lead in this independent film, and the money that they were gonna pay me, because it was like a week's worth of work, was gonna allow me to pay rent and get not get evicted and pay a month's rent. So, I hit up TNA because TNA was gonna have a pay-per-view in, Canada, and that was on a Sunday, and that Monday was the first shoot day really early in the morning for this movie. And I asked them, I said, "Look, is there any way, like, at the pay-per-view, I can just go through a table?" Because at the time, LAX was feuding with Team 3D, which now we know was a big deal for me. And I go through a table, and then I could be out for TV because I went through the table. Let me go do this movie, and then whatever. And they said, pretty much the vibe was, we'll think about it. Just come to Canada." And I knew what that meant. You're not getting back. You're going from Canada to Orlando after the tapings. And I certainly didn't have the money to change a flight. And so I said, "Look, I am willing to flake out on this movie. I'm the main. So it's not just like, oh, they can reschedule. It's a whole crew of people that I'm about to let down." I said, my contract was expiring. So I said, "Look, if you can give me," because it was infamously known that you can kind of get like $100 bump. That was like usually the gist, unless you're somebody like high up. So I was like, "Give me my $100 bump now and I'll flake." And they said, "I can't do that." And I said, "Well, I can't come to work then." And so that's how I quit.
That
And go ahead.
I mean, that's a deciding factor, right? That tells you how they feel about you, right?
And it sucks because I was having a lot of fun with the character, but then there was, like, here's the thing, I don't know if, like, maybe I blocked some of it out, but there was, like, something weird going on behind the scenes. I remember all of a sudden not feeling like it was so much fun anymore, and that kinda contributed to that decision making of, like, I can't even get the $100 bump, so I can make it a little easier. And then here's the other thing. After I was done, or after I was revealed as the girl, they never put me on house shows. They would say that I would be on house shows, and then last minute they would never give me my travel. And then when I bring it up to them, they go, "Oh, you're gonna be on the next one. You're gonna be on the next one." So what I would do is I would not go on auditions and do these other things because I thought I was gonna be on the house shows. And by the time I realized I wasn't, it was hard to scramble up some work. So that's what the static was with TNA. And it's interesting because a few months back, there was like some cute fans online and they were just being like, "Oh, they did you wrong in WWE." And like they get real upset. I love it. But I thought about it and I was talking to one of my members for my fan site. And I was like, "Dude, if I never got fired from WWE, I would have never been at the building stages of the knockouts division, and what I experienced during that time, I'm fine with sacrificing Ariel to have those moments and that experience, even though it was hard and it hurt. Again, like I keep saying, that's what I signed up for, and what was going on in WWE, that wasn't really happening anymore. I had to go somewhere else and be a part of something that was gonna end up being so influential to today's wrestling because we were a bunch of women over here because a lot of the ladies in TNA at the time were ladies that I knew throughout my career and they like almost got somewhere, but like something always happened. And so now this was the time where now that's what built some of them to be the household names that they are today. So, and they let me wrestle more. And it's just, I wouldn't give that up for anything. It stung and it hurt with WWE, but it's like, that's why I tell people it had to come to an end because I would hear everyone, this was when I was Ariel, I would hear people at work talking about TNA so much because TNA was starting to, like, make some rumblings. So, I started saying like, I would and that's when I saw Conan come out with LAX, and I was like, "Dude, these guys are like my cousins." Like, back in Chino we talked about earlier, these are like my cousins, and so fully having job stability with WWE, I started saying to myself, if for some reason something were to happen, I could see myself with those guys. So how would I
Oh,
dress?
wow.
How would I walk? How would I go and do the entrance to the ring? How would I do my hair? How would I do my makeup? And so that was killing time doing my cardio while I was Ariel and my job wasn't in jeopardy. And I was kind of like preparing in my head this what if scenario. And then I get fired and then they put me with LAX. That's why I was able to step into that character the way I was without skipping a beat. And going back to people making me feel lesser than, it was like a couple of years ago, I was doing a Twitch stream and I was talking about when I revealed myself as the girl. And people in the chat room were like, "Oh my gosh, I was losing it. I couldn't believe." And I said, "Wait a minute. Did you guys really think it was a guy?" Because to me, I thought like when you lie, you think everyone knows like the truth. So as I had that
Yeah.
guilty conscience. So when I was the guy, I had so much fun with it. I'd creep into the they used to tape my boobs down, the whole 9 yards. And I'm thinking, especially the smart marks, no, it's Ariel. And so for them to be like, "No, you got us." And I go, "Let's watch it." And so we streamed it and they were like, "No." And so I was like, "Dude, I going back to Bubba, I got the crowd." And I remember when I like took off my thing and then it was Christy Hemme, she's like, it was me and her having a fight and she was like, "It's a girl, it's a girl." And it was, oh, I'm getting chills. It was so awesome. So I had that moment and I got what I needed out of it. But like that's, like, the common theme of my wrestling career is everything that's supposed to happen does, and there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, but the whole combination of it all is like, dude, I totally got what I wanted out of the business. The ugly parts are ugly, but I certainly did, and I'm really grateful for it, and I just like to throw that out there because I know that I've put myself out there for years of how hurt I've been, and I think I've created a stigma of being a certain way or feeling a certain way. I just wanna share my journey because I have a passion specifically for women wrestlers, and when I was looking for support online, and online wasn't what it was today, the only person I found that was really speaking out from the heart was China. I would
Mhm.
watch her videos, and her and I became friends, because of that, and she and I would talk about the business and all this, and now that we are where we are with social media, if there's that wrestler girl out there that's, like, can relate to anything I've went through, I wanna give them the hope if they're stuck in it right now of the or should I not say anything? Am I gonna lose the booking now and this and that? Maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth losing that booking because what that experience will shift you to, maybe it'll shift you to your purpose and you'll be more in alignment. And I think with the wrestling business, there's so much mind games and haters and people playing manipulating that it's easy to lose yourself. And then you don't even know where to begin to start to find yourself. And I want to be a living example that if you're willing to do the work for yourself, that you don't have to be stuck in this like emptiness that wrestling can kind of leave you with.
That's that's really powerful. I was going to, usually as we're closing an interview, I like to say, um, the predominant adversity in it seems to me, and I don't want to speak for you, in your career has been, it feels like you've been misunderstood a lot of times. Because you don't, as we get older, we see things differently, and we're not afraid to. I feel like I'm not afraid to take responsibility for where I knew, okay, this was that was a little bit, but we also, if we're healthy, grow some gratitude. And I'm curious now, like you have officially retired from wrestling, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I said
So
I'll only come out of wrestling or out of retirement for one, and that's WoW. If WoW wanted me, that's the only way to come out.
that'd be awesome. Uh, so I was, what would you say the predominant adversity is that you've experienced in your journey? And with that, what advice would you give to anyone who is going through a similar thing? Because most people, everybody has a story, not everybody has a voice. We're fortunate enough we came from something that gave us a voice, and people will listen.
Me just speaking up, man, especially as a woman with or without wrestling, it's causes problems. It just does. And there's times where I've reflected back and I thought, "Geez, should I have said that?" Like with the Johnny Ace when he fired me. Maybe I should just kept my mouth shut. Like maybe I was too much in my feelings because there's a big difference from talking from emotion and maybe shouldn't have said that kind of thing or made things worse. But there's also a big difference of you have to say it no matter what the consequence is. And it's really hard as people, especially when the stakes are something that you really care about. In this case, wrestling, losing a booking, getting fired, um, whatever. Because I feel like I got blackballed in a lot of ways because people who have a problem with my personality, whether they misunderstand it or not, make sure of that. And that's what sucks. It's really hard. But I got some advice a long time ago, and it was if you have fans, you could still make money. Like, that's just it. And I think now we live in a society where there's lots of different ways to if you lose an opportunity for staying true to who you are or not be putting up with something or something makes you uncomfortable and it affects here's the thing, the mental and spiritual health is should be your first and foremost. And I feel a lot of people struggle with their demon is I'm not okay with XYZ, but because it's wrestling brother, sister, I gotta play the game. And that's kinda true to an extent, but it's not the end all be all. And so when I say now more than ever, my advice to people who struggle with should I say something? Shouldn't I say something? Should I be okay with this? Should I not? Even though there's a lot that kinda sucks about how the business is different now versus when I was coming up, the good part of it is there's just so many ways to make up for losing that job or make up for losing that booking, especially if people find out why that happened and they're like, "Dude, I wanna work with someone like you." That's what I found. Like, even with the era of where it's not where it is today, I've gotten a lot of really cool bookings because promoters or people bringing me in for, like, a signing was like, "I really respect that you did this," or, "I always felt bad that, like, this and that happened." And it showed me that even though it could seem like no one has your back or no one sees you and hears you and agrees with you, there are people that do, and that's where you get your quality, and it's not about that quantity, it's about quality. And if you feel like you need to do whatever, that's fine, but sometimes we feel in certain stages in our life this is the big thing I see with people. They maybe sell themselves out a little bit, get ahead, but now they gotta live with themselves. And that's where a lot of ugliness can come in, and it's heartbreaking. So, there's, like, 2 groups that pull at my heartstrings, the people that relate to me for, like, not wanting to conform, and then the ones that conform because what else am I gonna do? Because like you said, everyone has a story. I'm able to speak freely because I have nothing to lose because I've been pretty blackballed from the business, and then I decided to retire with I was 100% blackballed, but I was blackballed in some good gigs, but I made it work. I left the business, but then so there's people that feel with that, but then there's the ones that, like, I saw, like, especially if I knew them or early in their career, and, like, now it's like, "Damn, dude," and I just wanna be like, "You are good enough." Like, you're good enough. So I know I'm kind of all over the place with this, but, like, because I'm lucha, but it's hard. It's hard no matter what you do if something's at risk to say something. And that's where people have to take a step back and be like, what's worth it and what's not worth it. And to know specifically in wrestling, there's so many tools out there to supplement that loss. So grab onto that.
That's that's great advice, great suggestion, and um, you said it without saying it that I feel like you did what was right in your heart and your soul in those moments, and now you can live with yourself. You can look at yourself in the mirror because you know. in your heart, that was the line. And that wasn't okay. And you made it known. You did what so few people in the wrestling industry and showbiz do. And you said what was right in that moment, regardless of the consequences for yourself. And I think that's, I don't know how that can't be respected. So I'm so grateful. I know you. I'm so grateful I get to talk to you. Um, Here's where we get to the shallow parts. What do you have to
Okay.
plug?
What do I have to what? Oh, plug. Oh,
Plug.
so here's the thing. The main thing I care about the most is my podcast, Vampire Radio. I've been podcasting since 2009, a long story short, but I've kind of rebranded it all. I'm now, actually today going to record a new episode. And it's going to have a interview with Vince Russo talking about TNA. So that'll be good. So there's that. I'm trying to get my YouTube monetized again. They demonetized me a long time ago, trying to get that going. I'm trying to get monetized on Twitter. Here's the thing, I'm all about getting monetized on platforms that it doesn't cost people except like them watching because there's that. And then if people do want to be a little bit more exclusive, I have my secret society, which is my fan club I've been doing since 2017. Right after I decided to retire, I just started doing that full time. Just exclusive content, nothing topless or anything like that, people, so don't get go get your hopes up. But it's a good little community over there that I've built throughout the years. You can find everything I'm doing and more on shellymartinez.net/links. Everything's there. Oh, I'm in a contest right now. It's called Face of Halloween. And you get to win some money and you get a photo shoot and this Rogue Morgue magazine. So it's like totally a Shelly thing.
You're always honest, but to come and share as much as you did. Thank you so much for that, Shelly.
Well, I love that we got to catch up first and foremost. It's so great to see you. And thank you so much for having me on your show. You're doing a great job, by the way, with your interviews. I love it. I'm like a fan of the show.
Thanks, Shells Bells. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Limpin' Ain't Easy. My name is Timmy Baltimore. That's Shelly Martinez, aka the Great Ariel, and we will see you here next time. Thank you so much.
Crazy Shelly did come out. So I got this reputation of being crazy. So I was like, okay, I'll own up to it. And so I grabbed Paul by the neck and I pushed him up against the wall. And so I had him like this and I whispered in his ear, "You like that, don't you? Now you're gonna stop fucking with me." And I like let him go. And I just remember he was going, and everyone was like looking. And then I walked away and it was like that hallway and that door. And I thought to myself, don't turn around, be like the movies. So I opened the door and I slammed it.
Hey, you jabronis. Hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to click subscribe to the YouTube channel and podcast. This has been Limpin' Ain't Easy. It's wrestling as real as it gets.